All right, welcome back to another episode of Trades Talk. Maggie here with our guest today, Paul Sanneman, the CEO and founder of Contractor Staffing Source. Paul, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of background about where you come from and how you
started a recruiting company, right? Well, my background is I've been coaching for 50 years. That makes me an old guy, right? I've literally dealt with personally with 2,000 contractors over my career. I have 200,000 hours of doing this. And I have drug contractors to technology. And when I started, they were using pagers. That's how old it is, right? Then I convinced them to use cell phones. And they said, well, the cell phones are going to disturb the peace of mind in the truck, right? They didn't want to use cell phones. And then we went to email, which was a fad for them. And then we went to websites, and they go, who needs a website? I'm great at what I do. Went from websites to project-based management, web-based project management. They thought that was a waste of time. They went to spreadsheets. And then, my latest battle is AI, right?
Yeah.
You and me, all of ours.
And they go, oh, it's going to take over the planet. It's evil or something. So they watch too many sci-fi movies. So it is, I've been dragging contractors through technology for God knows 50 years, way back, right? So what happened about 7 years ago was I could build companies as a coach from 2 to 15 million. I was really good at it, but they couldn't find the employees. So I said, how hard is this? So I created a whole software stack. I did best practices. I gave them the software and they totally screwed it up. I went, okay, this doesn't work. Started with a guy, put him in my garage, and he said, I want you to use this software stack for my coaching clients to help them find people. That was 7 years ago. To today, there's 35 people on the team. We've hired thousands of employees all over the U.S. and Canada. We're basically every market in the U.S. and Canada. And every week we hire 10, 20 people for various people around the country. So we've figured out how to do this. It took me a while to figure it out, but we have got it down. And over 94% of the people we hire stay longer than a year.
Wow.
So
that's a great stat.
So it works really well. Now, what is the secret sauce? What is the magic, right? Well, the first thing I want to tell the listeners is if you have a recruiting problem, it's your fault.
Just,
full stop.
Own up to it.
There's plenty of qualified people out there. You just don't know how to find them. But there's no shortage of qualified candidates. Now, the secret is we had to go through 500,000 people to hire 3,000. It's generally 300 to 1 because it's so easy to apply these days, right? So we figure 300 candidates to fill one position. Most people hate that statistic, but it's just the way it works. It's too easy to apply.
Can I interrupt you right there? Is that mainly so are you hiring for a specific profile or are these roles throughout the entire organization?
These are roles from a labor to a CEO, right?
Okay.
Now, right now, if we look at our client base, it's probably a third home builders, a third remodelers, and a third service business like electrical, plumbers, HVAC, roofing. That's our fastest growing segment because they're really bad at it.
They don't prioritize it. They'd rather be out there.
Yeah. And let me tell you, this is what I think they believe, why they're bad at it, okay? So the first one, the myth is only recruit when you need somebody, right? If you are a hammer, everything is a nail, right? So they figure, I only need to recruit when I need somebody. The second myth is employees are expensive. I can't afford that guy. He's way too much money. The third one is we can do it ourselves. How hard is this to do? Yeah, put it out Indeed. I'm done. This is easy to do. The next one is they got to have construction background. I can't hire anybody that doesn't have a construction background. The next one is hire fast and fire slow. That's because they're desperate all the time, right? They hire fast, they fire slow because they got the world's worst employee, not bad enough to keep or good enough to fire or bad enough to fire. And the next one is they should recruit, like it's a project. Everything is a project. It has a middle, a beginning, and an end. They're going to recruit, and they're going to be done. And so most of what happens is I'm going to use maybe some politically correct, but it's like there's merit-based companies like football teams, right, that are always looking for the top people. And then there's the federal government. No, it's called seniority based, right? I got a job. I'm good. Until I totally screw up, I'm not going to get fired, right? So those are like two cultures, right, that exist. And unfortunately, a lot of people, because they're poor at hiring, have the second kind of culture, right? It's like, he's been here, she's been here for 3 years. They're not that bad. I'll just keep them on. So let me tell you, my opinion, the reality truths, okay? The first one is you should always be recruiting. You never, ever stop. And I have this argument all the time. We currently serve, out of our 300 clients, we're recruiting for 150 right now. And the ones that aren't recruiting say, oh, we found our guy, we're done. I go, no, no, no. The chances of you finding Mr. Wonderful at the exact same time he's looking for a job is between rote and none, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're not on LinkedIn all the time, you're not out there all the time on Indeed, I'll show you, we're on 100 different job boards. The minute that guy or woman decides, I hate my job or I don't like my whatever, you got to be there. And the chance of that happening the exact same moment you want to hire somebody, it just doesn't happen. The next one is employees are expensive. Not true. You can't make money without employees. Not possible. So,
especially in a completely labor-based business.
You're all the things labor rate, right? So
right.
I don't, that guy's too expensive. I can't afford it. And that's not true. You can't make money without employees. The next one, I fight this one all the time. Outsource your recruit. I mean, you should do it yourself. Doesn't work. You need to outsource your recruiting. My guess is you probably don't do your own taxes. You probably don't fix your own car, right? And you probably don't do a lot of things you're not good at. Why do you think they're magically good at recruiting, right?
I run into the same problem with technology. Like people want to go build their own software, and it's like, you're a landscape company. Let's not dabble into the software.
That, right? And so it's just a myth. I mean, you don't do get somebody else who's good at it to do it. Next one is they have to have construction background. Not true. I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, the hospitality industry went in the tank, right? It just sucked, right? So think about a selections coordinator versus a wedding planner, right? Think about that. I mean, a wedding planner has to get a bunch of semi-flaky, no offense, groups, the band, the venue, the flower person, the caterer. They've all got to show up at the right place and the right time, and everybody has to be happy. Sounds like construction to me, right?
Yep.
And so we hire a lot of people outside the industry, and they're very good at it because, who you are is way more important than what you know, right? So the next one, which kills most companies, is hire slow, fire fast. They hire slow. That's a reality. It's what they think it is. I hire fast and fire slow. They hire fast and fire slow because they're desperate, right? First person that fogs the mirror gets in. We're good. And they fire slow because they got nobody to replace him. And so they end up with the world's worst employee, not good enough to keep or bad enough to fire. And you're only as good as your team, right? And so they don't spend the resources on building the team, which they should.
Yeah, I see people like keeping someone like a mediocre employee, maybe doing 60% of what they should be because they're like, well, 60% is better than 0%. And that's because they don't have a pipeline.
And what happens is they build what I call, seniority-based companies versus merit-based companies. We're talking about, like, for example, football teams, they're all merit-based. You either perform or you're gone, right?
Right.
And whereas a seniority-based, once you've got tenure, you can tell it you're done. I don't have, unless I do something terrible, I'm going to stay on. So you end up with a whole group of mediocre people. That's really hard to run a business with, right? It's tough. So that's why you should be recruiting all the time, and it's not a project. So now I'm going to tell you the secret sauce of what you need to do to find quality employees and never have a shortage of employees ever. All right?
Okay, let's hear it.
We figured this out. We're really good at it. All right?
I'm surprised you're just sharing it.
This is it. Okay. It's sort of like, how do you get healthy? You eat less and exercise. What's the problem, right? Why do we have a fat country? Because they don't exercise, right? So knowing it is just a little piece of it. Doing it is way harder, right?
Yeah.
So the first one is write a job ad that attracts the right candidates, all right? It's an ad. It is not a description. And guaranteed you don't want to hire anybody that doesn't already have a job. So you got to get them to quit their job and come to work for you. So if your ad isn't inspiring, that wants to get them to quit their job, it's just, we are looking for a project manager, they need to do da-da-da, or we are looking for a landscape person, or whatever, right? A cement guy. When they look at the ad, if it's, I don't need it. Now, if it says, do you hate your job or whatever, I mean, it's got to be interesting. It's an advertisement. The purpose of the ad is to get somebody to read it and apply. Now, the good news is AI has helped a lot. You can go to ChatGPT and you can say, write me a job ad that'll get somebody to quit their job for a landscape company and come to work for me, make it intriguing, make it interesting. Then you can also say, write the description, write the KPIs, write how, it'll do the whole damn thing for you in about 3 minutes. You're done.
Yep.
Right? So this is way easier than it used to be. AI will do all that stuff and does it very fast and very efficiently. And it's basically free. So that's not tough. The next one is post a job ad everywhere. We post it on 100 job boards plus LinkedIn plus we post it everywhere you can possibly put it. Indeed is not the answer. You got to post it everywhere you possibly. If you even go to AI and say, give me all the places I can post my job ad, it'll list like 40 places to put it. And if it doesn't give you 40, ask for more. So go to and ask every place I should put this job ad. All right. So far, you could probably do it yourself. Now, here is what gets people in trouble. Respond in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The minute they click
So
the ad,
true.
come back to them in 10 seconds. Now, who is going to respond in real time to 300 applicants?
No one,
Probably
unless
not
they're getting
gonna happen,
paid
right?
to do it.
Software.
Software, AI sort of sucks that we've used AI for some things, but it can't screen candidates. It's still not good at it. If it would, I'd use it, right? So
Yeah.
we have AI doing everything it can do. It's good at writing job ads. It's good at writing KPIs. But it sucks at screening candidates because we have the most sophisticated AI on the planet for doing that, and it still sucks because it reads it wrong. It takes it literally, right? So say a guy has project manager 5 times in his resume. Oh, this guy's got a lot of experience, and it will make the wrong decisions.
Mm.
So AI doesn't, and maybe someday I'm sure it'll get there, but as of yet, it hasn't got it figured out. So
So do you have people on your team doing this?
yes. Why do I have 35 people, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. And this is going to be a little bit of, sorry, a deep dive here, but someone who I manage sales teams and like, if I want them to focus on activity, I compensate them based on that activity. So is it like you're measuring response time, I'm sure, by your employee and incentivizing them to hit a certain time?
Well, we try to get back. We use AI to do it really fast, but then we have to follow up. I mean,
Yeah.
AI will do it in 10 seconds. If you have
Yeah.
a really good applicant tracking system, you got to pay for that, but it can pull it off. But then you got to follow up with the real person. So I would say that's the one glitch where doing it yourself is going to be really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're looking for a person, the chance of you responding to 300 people in real time is remote than that. I mean, I talked to other says, well, I had 40 applicants this weekend. I'll get back to them sometime in this next week. It doesn't work. It's speed to lead, right? I mean, it's just like when somebody's going through Google looking for a landscaper. If you come back a week later, how good is that going to be, right? Not going to work.
People expect
You gotta
an immediate
respond in
response.
real time. All
Well,
right?
they're also in the mindset to buy right there, and they're in the mindset to apply. So if an applicant is taking the time to apply or click on an ad, they're in that mindset. You got to
Right.
capture them all in that
Right then,
mindset.
because they're going to go apply, right down Indeed or LinkedIn, where they're applying, right?
Mm-hmm.
The person that get back to them immediately, that makes a good impression. Wow, they get back to me right away, right? So it separates you from the competition. So when you're looking, I don't care if it's a landscaper on Indeed or somebody on ZipRecruiter, it doesn't matter. Speed to lead is crucial, or even LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, ZipRecruiters are going to, you've got to put it everywhere to find the right people. But if you put it everywhere and you respond in real time, you're partial way there. And good luck. That's why I have a company, because people don't do that, right? The next one, detailed assessments. Now, we have an assessment that I will tell you more about you than your mom knows, right? I know what your personality is. I know whether you're honest. I know you're trustworthy. I know how intelligent you are. I can measure all that stuff with assessments. And to me, and we've done 300,000 assessments, some crazy number. Reverse engineered it. So we said, who succeeded as a landscape guy? Who succeeded as a project manager? Who succeeded as a whatever? Reverse engineered it and say, okay, this is the personality they need to have. This is the intelligence they need to have. And this is the integrity they need to have. Now, so Justin, I'm going to ask you a quick question. This is one of the honesty questions, okay? Here we go.
Okay.
So you believe in supporting your boss, right? As an employee,
Sure. Yeah.
you support your boss. Okay?
Your wife is your boss, Justin. Let's use that.
You're supposed to support your boss, right? I mean, that's your job, right? Now, let's say your boss asks you to tell the client the product will be delivered in 2 weeks. You know it's 4 weeks. The boss knows it's 4 weeks. What are you going to do? You're going to lie and support your boss or tell the truth?
I reference the fundamentals at K&D, and so for us, it's pretty easy. Just tell the truth to the client.
Tell the truth, right? But some people, so that's the kind of questions you ask to get at their honesty scores.
Yep.
So I can tell who a person is and what their integrity is just by assessments. In fact, we're working on a new assessment. This actually came up today. You can literally put on a VR headset and you can go paint a house or wire a house. It's all virtual, right? So literally you can test the guy in your office on a VR headset on how good he is at whatever he's going to do without him ever leaving the office.
Oh, I love that. That's huge for labor intensive work.
It's amazing. And you know, it's been around, technology's been around for, I just met the guy in a podcast. That's where I met him. But they have, and it's just a standard VR. It's like, you know, the one your kids with, you know, Oculus. It's just a standard VR headset.
Right.
And you put that on and they've programmed, please fix this plumbing. And they have all kinds of programs so you can actually watch the guy and assess him on his motor skills.
Interesting.
Assessments are critical. You can't skip that part. All right. Then after the assessment, you do a video interview. Now, we made the video interviews easy because they're not in real time. They get on their phone, they get on the computer, and we ask them, there's different questions for every job and every company. And we ask them all the questions you want to answer, and they answer in the video in real time. And then the video is on the applicant tracking system. And then we can look at all the assessment scores, look at all the videos. We do background. And so that's what the assessment tracking system does, all right? So do the video.
So are they interviewing like with the computer, or are they?
They're interviewing with their phone, right?
Yeah, and so there's no need for staffing someone to hire an interview. That's just great because like so much of my time is interviewing.
They get on their phone and they answer the questions, right?
That's incredible.
And you can tell. I mean, because anything I can't find out in the assessment, I found in the video interview. Like I had a guy who wouldn't take the video interview, and I said, "Well, I'm probably not going to work out." So he shows up for the job and he has tattoos all over his face. I went, probably not the right guy for a sales guy, right? So it's like, come on. So, but you can't tell that stuff unless you do a video interview. So
Sure.
You do the assessments and you do the video interview for all the candidates. We have a whole system that does that, right? And then once you do the video interview, they've done the assessments, they've done the video interviews, and then you do a Zoom interview. I mean, you can actually talk to them in real time or in person. Either one of those are fine. Then when you're done with that, you conduct a background check. You check, make that background check's like $80 or cheap. Do a background check and make sure they're the right person. Then you call all the references. You don't miss any of the references. We call the references. And then once you've done all that, right, then you've got to make a competitive job offer because they have to quit their job they're in to come to work for you, right? So it's got to be, and that has to do, most people, now interesting question, why do you think most people leave their jobs? What's the number one reason people leave their jobs?
Their boss or manager, yeah.
It's appreciation, right? It's not money.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're, quote, treated well. He doesn't care about me. There's no appreciation, right? So that brings us on to the last thing, which is the onboarding process. It's got to be done right. Because now the guy or the woman has quit their job. They've come to work for you, first day at work. They're going to go home and tell their spouse one of two things or something in the middle. Best decision I ever made or worst decision ever made, right? Like, oh my God, these people are crazy. Or I love these guys. They're amazing. You've got to make sure when that candidate goes home and he goes home to his spouse or she goes home to her spouse and says, best decision I've made. These are amazing. They're wonderful people. I love these guys. You only got one chance at a first impression. So you got to make sure the onboarding is a love fest. They're happy. They're treated right. They feel like veterans. And you don't say, here's a bag of tools, go out and fix it. Or here's a lawnmower, go have fun. That doesn't work. So that's it. If you do all of those things in that order, you will have no labor shortage.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we've experienced the same, right? And we've learned a lot through failure, and we've hired maybe thousands of employees at this point over the last 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, probably thousands. And we've interviewed tens of thousands. And one thing that I've found that helps us in the very front end of the interview process is we help to really explain the expectations of the process to the candidate and ensure that they understand the vision of the company. So I don't want to say we sell the company in the front end, but we kind of do, right? We want...
They got to quit their job and come to work for you, right? They're
Yeah,
going to have a reason to do that.
and they're going to go through this gauntlet. I mean, it's our interview process and everything is so similar to what you described, almost exactly. And we've noticed that when we don't help to educate the candidate of the gauntlet and why they should go through it, we have this attrition in the first and second step, which is the phone call and then the assessment. And so we'll lose a lot of people in the assessment because they log in, they don't finish it. And that for me is like, they're kind of screening themselves out when they don't finish it. But if we went, I don't know, probably 50% would do the assessment. And now we're like 70, 80% are doing the assessment.
We get about 80% to take it, but we're really, I mean, we run 500 job ads a day on the average. We go through 4,000 resumes a week on the average, and we probably get 1,000 people take the assessment. We figured out a way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, so, you can do this all yourself or now you can hire us, right? I mean, the way I did this is you do a monthly fee, right? So I can do it for like $1,500 a month or so, and I can do all of this for you. Now, if you can do it cheaper than that, hey, go for it. But I use a lot of AI, a lot of offshore labor. We figured out a way to bring the cost way down so the average small company can afford it. I mean, so that's sort of a secret sauce. That's why I've done really well.
Yeah. What would you say on that in terms of ad spend for an open, let's not even say an open position, just a recruitment position for a company? Maybe they have 25 to 30 employees, smaller company. What would you say is an ad spend that you would normally put behind a job ad?
Well, it could be, I don't know, $20 a day, whatever it is. But the problem is that we're a recruiting company. We don't have to pay for that because as a recruiting company, we can do it all for free, right? So a lot of people find their ad spend was more before us than literally hiring us to do the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say.
We don't have to pay any money for that.
Mm-hmm.
We do it organically, and it usually works. Now, occasionally we got to spend money, but not normally. In most markets, if there's anybody around, I mean, the places where we fail, Justin, is if in the middle of nowhere, there was a guy in Mountain Home, Arkansas. There was nobody for like 400 miles in direction. They wanted a project manager to multi-million-dollar homes, and the population of Mountain Home is like 3,000 people. Good luck with that, right?
That's a challenge. Yeah.
Anywhere where they're near people, we can find them.
So let's talk a little bit about that always be recruiting mindset. And I have struggled with this with my team because, again, they're project-based people, and we will sometimes get into this mindset where, hey, we accomplished the goal. We got the person hired. They're great. Awesome. My job's done. I can go to focus on something else. How do you build a culture around always be recruiting? Because I do believe it's not just...
The problem is it's contractors because their mindset, right? They're not... Software guys are no problem. I mean, software guys are going to spend $1 million for them to make a nickel, and they do it all the time. Or marketing people. But think about the contractors' life is built on, I've got a project, it has a beginning, has a middle, and end. So I said, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So everything's a project. Everything in life's a project. Where, marketing and recruiting are not projects, they're process. And I try to use the example of the football team. I mean, if you're merit-based, you have to recruit all the time because you're always looking for the best people, the job, and what you can do, and that kind of thing. And again, if you're seniority-based, you're done, right? But then your organization tends to go downhill because sometimes you hire an employee who doesn't meet the cultural norms, for lack of a better term, right? And so he's a little late most of the time. He trashes the company occasionally. He's not nice to clients. Pick it, right? So what happens is the good employees that you spent years building this culture of quality, integrity, honesty, they look at this new guy and go, he doesn't show up on time. He lied. I mean, why can't I? So they either leave because they're not happy with it or they sort of get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it only takes one. It doesn't take like 50. I have examples of one guy can totally tank the culture in an organization with 30 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Got to get them out fast.
We've seen it.
Justin, to kind of touch on what you were asking about the pipeline of candidates, one thing that I don't see enough contractors doing is budgeting for over hiring. And so we try to get so lean, especially during budget season, this is how many heads we need for this many services at this time. I would actually argue that you should budget 2 extra headcount at any given time of year, because if you find a good candidate and you don't have that budget for that position, like, are you just going to let them pass and,
Well, no,
and walk away?
I use that example, Maggie, like, let's send them in with a remodeling contract or something like that. And they go, well, I can't afford another project manager. You go, what if somebody comes along and knows every architect in town, knows every subcontractor in town, is working a competition and brings $3 million worth of business in, and the first day shows up? You going to hire him? I think so, right? There's always room for the right person, always. And not only that, you build a culture so people can hardly wait to quit their job and come to work for you. Now, another question, Meg, how many companies that you know have a recruiting budget?
Like, usually comes out of the marketing budget, and the marketing team's doing the recruiting. Most successful companies in other industries have a damn recruiting budget, right? Right.
They figure there's a cost of finding the right client. There's a cost of finding the right employee, and you pay the cost.
Yeah, we have a huge recruiting budget. I work in technology, and we have a huge recruiting budget.
Right. I mean, I talked to some people at Breakthrough Canada. They have $500,000 recruiting. They're consulting. They have $500,000 recruiting. They understand it costs money to get people, and you're only as good as your people. For some reason, contractors haven't got that. I don't know what it is, but it's like recruiting should be free. I put an ad in Indeed, I take who shows up, and it's all good. And then they complain because there's not enough good people working for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we hear it all the time that the biggest issue in contracting and trades is people. And yet I always see people lack the spend on recruiting or lack the intentionality around recruiting. And I think
it's not they don't have a line item on their budget for recruiting.
No, they don't. I see this as in most companies that are over 10 million in revenue start to have one on their budget. So this is like part of this 8-figure mindset that I see with a lot of trade businesses. They get to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, and they don't understand the needs of the business as they scale. And then they get to 5 million and they hit a wall and they can't figure out how to get past that. And I think this is such a great example of one of those things that every company that's doing at least 20 million in revenue at this point has a recruiting budget. I don't know too many that don't. You're basically taking that ability of these bigger companies, you've compressed the pricing and offered it in a monthly rate so that a 30-person, $3 million business can have a recruiting.
I will tell you, our average client has between 5 and 20 employees.
Yeah, got it. That's awesome.
And we do, for that kind of money, it's nothing, right? If you're doing over $1 million, it's affordable.
Yeah.
Because you're only good as your team. And so that's why I created the company. I want to get into that market. And all we do is construction. That's it. I think we've been successful because the average recruiter will charge you 10% of the first year's salary.
Yeah, that's on the low end.
It's and that's expensive. I mean, one guy came to work for me, he says, well, the last 2 salespeople I hired, it cost me $16,000 a piece. You've hired me 20 people all year and it cost me $18,000 total, right?
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
And it's like at that 5 to 20 side, like they're still probably outsourcing some of their marketing and other things too. So they don't even have the ability to bring in someone there. I have a question for you, Paul, about like just recent, like, industry struggles or challenges that you're seeing. So what are some of like the, hot struggles that you're seeing currently in the industry about like,
obviously, I mean, the administration has not made it easier for certain groups of people that hang out here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, I know a lot of people that didn't get the visas they thought they were going to get. So their crew is going to come from whatever, Portugal or something, and they couldn't make it because they couldn't get the visas. So that's an issue, right? And so it is, but again, it's upping your budget. If you look at it as a budget and you spend the time and the money, you can find the people. If you don't think they're free. But if you have the mindset, employees are free. I just asked Juan to invite his friends and I put an ad in Indeed. I don't need to spend money on recruiting. They have a shortage, but it's their problem of not putting the resources in to get the results they're looking for.
Let's talk a little bit about that ROI on spend. And I think we have to understand that most contractors, myself included, at some point, we were thinking of things of like, if I spend $1, I need to make $2, right? That 50% gross profit. But when you're spending money on recruiting, it's so much harder of an ROI to track, but I completely believe in it. So Paul, maybe just take us through this idea of
I mean,
what are the
I'll tell
benefits?
you a couple things,
Yeah.
Justin. First is the cost of the wrong employee.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great.
And it's generally 5 times their salary. I mean, they've done a bunch of studies. You can look on AOI. It's 50,000 easy, right?
Easy.
Between the harm that's done to the culture, he screws up the job, whatever. It's an easy 50 grand, right? And I don't care if you've got 5 employees, it still costs you 50 grand if the guy screws up. So the cost of the wrong employee is huge. You probably have an example of that, Justin. Have you ever hired the wrong guy and cost you money?
Oh, I've got a ton of examples of that, especially in the sales seat. I mean, we're not in a giant market with unlimited opportunities. So when an opportunity comes to us, we track it down and we fail to execute on our sales process because of a bad hire, we now lost that opportunity for at least 3 years or until they get a new board. So in my perspective, we had a sales rep, maybe 3 months. They probably cost us over $1 million of opportunity.
Right. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So the expense is there. And then the other question is, if you look at the quality of employees, you can't make money without people in this industry. It's all labor, right? It's not stuff. It's all labor. So the way you make money on people is have the right person doing the right job. Now, one of the keys to that is if you find the right person, you don't have to, watch them. For example, we have 35 people on our team, right? But we have to go through 300 to 400 to find one. But when we find one, we don't have to supervise them. We don't have to do anything. They just kill it, right? And they're all over the world. Literally have people in 20 different, or at least 10 different countries, right?
Wow.
They're just the kind of person that does that. They work hard. They love their job. They're really good at it. And we have to supervise them at all. They just kill it, right? Because that's who they are as a human being. And you can't fix that. You've got to find it. And if you haven't found those kind of people, you have to supervise the heck out of them. It works well under supervision. I've heard you sure that, right? So that's terrible. Because then unless you're making them accountable every hour, doing all these tracking and all this kind of stuff, you can't trust them.
Yeah.
And so what's that cost you?
Do you notice any sort of differences in work ethic as you see across generations? So whether it be Gen Z, Gen X, millennial, have you seen any sort of ideal candidate from that perspective?
Can I basically say it's getting worse?
Yeah.
I was alluding to that. I was kind of thinking
because
that.
What happens is if you look at, I have a 14-year-old kid. He plays games all day, right? And it's a different work ethic. It is, working is sort of an option. I remember I told my kid, I said, I'll pay you for this. He says, Dad, why do I need money? Because in his life, it isn't a reality, right? He doesn't need money. He has everything he wants, right? So we have a generation that work ethic is not something that has really showed up, right? They want to love their job. They want to have fun, which is important. You got to appeal to people's having a good time, and they work hard for something they love to do. But as a rule, you've got to find that person has the right values. And no matter, I don't care what race they are, if they don't have the right values, you can't fix it.
Right. And as a parent myself, I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure that my kids are, have the right work ethic and values. But I do see them falling down this
it's hard because
slope.
The culture doesn't support it.
Right.
The culture that, at least the U.S. culture, supports. You sort of just deserve to hang out and make it work, right?
Yeah. We live in a heavy enablement culture for sure.
It's not, in my parents' culture, it's not. So you got to find that 1 out of 150 people that has that same work ethic.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, as you go through your process, have you seen different generations falling off at different stages? So for example, all millennials will take the assessment, but Gen Z's no, I won't take it.
Well, no, if you just got to go through more people. It's numbers, right?
Yeah.
Why do you have to go through 500,000 people to find, probably in other countries, it wouldn't take to that many to find our 3,000, right? It's it just takes a lot of people. And that's why we recruit all over the world. And other cultures, it's easier to find somebody in Colombia or Venezuela or the Philippines or whatever, that they'd have a different kind of work ethic. But in this country, it's hard to find people. It just is.
Right.
Because of the whole cultural thing. You just got to go through more people.
So on that note, I want to just say for people listening, if you are listening, you're probably doing it to learn and you want to build yourself up. those who are in America, who have a strong work ethic, who want to show up and do amazing work and be A players and have a desire to do that, you guys have a huge advantage right now compared to 50 years ago, where like that was kind of the standard. But today, Paul, like you're saying, you're almost like a 1 in 150, 1 in 200 type of person.
It's not that common that's who you are as a person. And so, and the problem is in the construction industry, my generations are retiring, right? They're done.
Yeah.
And so the average age of a construction business owner is like 55 or something, or 60. It's old.
Yep.
And like none of their kids want to take over the business.
None of their kids want to take over the business. That's too much work for me, Dad. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't want to. I saw you at the dinner table.
I'm not interested, right? So, and it's huging this great gap, and it's a problem. And I think the only way to make up with it is numbers.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to change the environment. It just is what it is. So maybe 30 years ago, you had to go through 10 people to find one. Now you have to go through 300, right?
Mm-hmm. And how much? Let's just look at it like this. What if you're a company who's really wanting to scale? You're wanting to go from 30 employees to 100 employees over the next 5 years. Not only do you have to do what you're saying just to stay at 30, right? Because you just always need the best people if you're a merit-based organization. But to go from 30 to 100, you need to have some really, really incredibly high numbers that you're bringing in on applications.
Absolutely.
Every week.
The other thing we'll add to this, two complications, AI and private equity, right? They're changing the landscape.
Yep.
Right?
Literally.
And so the good news about AI is it can make sales calls. What it's getting better at it and doing it, which is good. You can automate a lot of that stuff, which is good. But private equity, it call it the Walmartization of construction, as sad as it is, right? Because what happens when Walmart moved into a community in the past, right? They'd say, I can't find any people. I can't find any customers, blah, blah, blah. And all the local businesses, the local drugstore, the grocery store, the hardware store all complain. There's no kids that want to work. It's too difficult. Customers' life is tough, right? Walmart moves in with better distribution, better prices. They just have a better system. And they just suck all the business out of downtown. Where do they find the 500 people that come to work for them, right?
Yep.
They're just better at it. And it's sad, but if you look at the percentage of retail that's done, it's gone away, right?
Oh,
because Walmart, Target are just, where do you shop? You shop Walmart, Target, you shop box stores because the local retailer, unless you have some kind of amazing thing, is more expensive and not as good.
Even worse, like everyone's Amazon, like box stores or something.
So now what's happening? Let's take private equity. Let's take roofing companies, right?
Yeah.
So somebody's coming with 20 million. In fact, I talked to a guy. He was a private equity. They had like 15, 20 million. Didn't know what to do with. He says, I'm starting a roofing company in Nebraska with my money. I go, why? He goes, well, look at Nebraska, they have all kinds of weather problems, so they need the problem. My competition are a bunch of old guys that are retiring or young guys that know what they're doing. I can commit. I don't have to know anything about roofing. I can hire guys that know roofing. I know about marketing and recruiting. That's all I need to know. Mm-hmm. I know how to find the customer, and I know how to find the employee, and I know how to put them together and do it right. And I will own the roofing business in Nebraska in 4 years. And the profit's amazing. And this is it's sad, but I'm trying to help the little guy because at least give him some competition, like some marketing comes out there. You can because of sources like ours, you can effectively compete with these PE guys. But what does a Google ad cost now when some guy's throwing it, $20,000 a month at it, and you've got two, right? You're gonna lose.
You got to outmaneuver, and the little guys have an edge, but you've got to use the same playbook against the big guys, and you've got to be able to do the recruiting and hit the marketing numbers. There's no reason why a private equity company should have more Google reviews than a locally owned company, but they do. And usually it's like a 5-to-1 ratio simply because private equity is so much better at asking for reviews. Right.
And the good news with companies like mine, with AI, and you can compete, but you got to use the resources. You can't ignore them.
You got to.
And you can't use old recruiting techniques. You can't use there's a marketing. I just been a marketing company. They will do all your marketing and kill it for $450 a month because they're using a lot of technology, right? Mm-hmm. But you got to find those guys and use them. I can recruit all the people you need for $1,500 a month, but you got to find us and use us. You can't depend on the old stuff. You will be out of business.
And on top of that, if you can do those things, it gives you the time to leverage your locally owned and operated message to recruit better, to market better, because ultimately people do want to work at the local family owned company, but they go to Walmart because they have better benefits, they have a better system, they have a better hiring process, they make the job easier on the applicant. Just don't make it so hard
Now,
to
there is
apply.
an upside to private equity. If you decide to sell in 3 years and you build your business right, you get way more than you used to get for it.
That's true. That is true. But you got to have a recruiting engine when you
You
go
got
to
to
sell.
have it down, right?
Yeah.
And so if your strategy is either to go out of business or be bought, it doesn't matter. You've got to adapt. You got to use technology.
So Paul, as we wrap up, I want to hit on a few of these myths because I love myths, the contrarian way of thinking. My friend Steve Haru is big on these. So number one, it's, hey, we only need to recruit when we need someone, right? That's myth number one. I can't tell you how much I agree or disagree with that. Like, we need to always be recruiting, activate your workforce, activate your team, and get your job posts out there all the time. Second, and I jotted these down as fast as I could as you talk quickly. Employees are expensive. Not true. The more you
And what
spend,
happens is, remember, you're going to, I'll tell you, one of the probably just shows up, Justin, is people are underpaying their current workforce, right? And so they're paying their project manager, I don't know, 80 grand a year. To find a new one, it costs them 100, right?
Yep.
That doesn't go over well with the guy you're paying 80.
Nope.
Because you haven't kept current on wages. You can't get some guy to quit his job and come to work for you because you're not paying your employees what you should be paying them for what they're doing.
I cannot say this loud enough for everyone listening. You need to be doing market research and paying your employees above market wages. There's no excuse for it. And if your excuse is they don't deserve it, then you should fire that person.
You have the wrong damn people.
Yeah, the
right?
wrong people. I can't tell you. I look at a lot of businesses from a consulting perspective, and they send me over what they're paying their project managers and their account managers. And you guys who are paying your account managers in California $70,000 a year, you're literally half of where you should be. Like, it's
right.
Terrible. And
I don't just go on ChatGPT and say, "Give me what I should pay this," and it'll tell you like three minutes. It's not hard to find out.
I'm going to add a layer onto that. Because I think that, yes, I totally agree with you, but some companies can't get there. And so if you can't say, oh, I'm going to give all my project managers $100,000 increases today, you need to give them the road to when that's possible. So you got to give them that hope. Like, okay, but that is in the budget for the next 3 years. We're going to do 25% over 3 years.
What happens if they leave and go to work for somebody else?
They're going to get it right away.
Yeah. That's
tough.
We got to look at two things in our construction businesses. We got to look at, number one, pricing. I think everyone's underpricing, like 90% of the market's underpricing. And in construction, you can change that tomorrow.
Same with maintenance. So I think maintenance is underpricing too, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Terribly bad underpriced on maintenance, like way worse, I would say. And that's harder to change. And then the second thing we need to do is we need to improve efficiencies. And we have, I shout out to Brian Gates. He's feel free to try to recruit him, anyone. He's an amazing guy. He ain't going anywhere. He has made us at least 10 points of margin, like taking our gross margin from 40% to 50% in the most competitive prevailing wage, public sector, hardcore construction world. He has dominated the profitability while keeping our prices the same because of his methodologies. He is worth every penny we pay him because his ability to improve efficiencies. So, absolutely. Maggie, I totally agree. There's so many businesses that are stuck in this, I don't have money to give the raise, but when you give the raise, sometimes you'll see a whole new person, and maybe, unfortunately, maybe you just don't have the right person in that spot.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, if you're in that mindset, you're stuck there. Like, figure out the road to the raise.
Yeah, totally.
And communicate that. If you can't do it right that minute, you got to communicate the road to the raise.
There's one thing I would ask everybody listening to this podcast. A big question to ask yourself. All right, if you were to start your business over today, is there anybody that you wouldn't rehire? If you wouldn't rehire them, you should fire them.
We've had this on. I feel like we've talked about this before, Justin, you and I.
When you ask that question and you ask it, and just, I love the question. You go to your manager, right, who oversees the team. Say, hey, if you bought the business today, and you had to rehire all these people, who would you not invite back for an interview? And yeah, that'll tell you a lot.
It does. It's a simple question.
All right. Number 3 myth is it's easy to hire. It's easy to recruit.
We can do it ourselves, right?
Yeah. Not, caution on that one. Number 4, and you have to help me out with number 4. I missed that one.
Okay, well, I'll give them to
We need to have background.
True within the construction industry.
Yeah, we need to have
Yes,
background
yes.
in the industry.
Is way more important than what they know, because you can change what they know, but can't change who they are.
Yes.
And I'm going to help you just to help you out here, Justin. The next one is, the myth is hire fast, fire slow. That's what you should do, right? But what happens is most people they hire fast and fire slow because they need people. They're desperate. They're not recruiting all the time. The reality is you should hire slow and fire fast.
Yep.
And the thing we just talked about, anybody you wouldn't rehire, you should fire them today.
Yep. And finally, go ahead, Maggie.
I'm going to take a step back to the one about the indie industry. And I hire salespeople like every single day. The best salespeople are people who have no sales experience prior to coming in because they have horrible habits. And so I like to hire people with psychology backgrounds. Like, give me all the people who know how people's brains work. Those are my salespeople.
Yep. I just hired a guy, and the reason I hired a guy who has a degree. He went to England. He ran a school system in Dubai for a long time. He's amazing. IQ off the charts, credible. Because he's in Colombia, I get to pay him $11 an hour, right? And
wow.
He kills it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, once I discovered, I was like, dude, we're good, right?
And they're living that's $100 an hour here.
That's the same as a surgeon makes in Colombia, right? He's fine, right?
Yeah. That's, I think beyond anything today, when you talk about, you have people in, a dozen countries or something working, it opens up our eyes to the fact that, look, not everyone you need to hire needs to be in your zip code. There's certain things in your business that can be done remotely. And when you open it up to the globe versus your state or your county, God forbid, go to the globe.
We did that also. We also hire remotely for people because we're really good at it. So you can find a native English speaker in Venezuela that kills it for a fraction of the cost of the U.S., right? Because, a house in Venezuela is like $30,000. It's like a whole different thing, right? And because of technology, we've got killer technology. We don't miss a beat. And people all over the world.
Yeah, it's there. It's there today. And then
it's today.
And number 6 is everything's project based. And this is more, you're saying this is more of a system. It's the infinite game.
Right. And if you want to build a company based on merit, not on seniority, you got to recruit all the time.
Yeah. So Paul, as we wrap up, we always like to get a trade secret. And you've given so many already, but anything on the final word here as we close this out, what do you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, there's 2 of them. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. That's from Jim Rohn.
That's great.
And the second one, the key to our success is AI and offshore labor. We just kill it.
Awesome. Boom.
Great advice.
Thank you so much, Paul. Action-packed episode. Hey, if someone does decide that they are actually not great at this and they want to reach out to you for some recruiting, how do they get a hold of your team?
Go to our website, contractorstaffingsource.com, and make an appointment with me. I still do sales.
Awesome. All right, guys, that link is going to be right below in our bio. Please check it out. And Maggie,
guaranteed speed the lead on that too. If you go there and submit he's going to call you back within 10 seconds.
I'll be on the phone, right? Or my AI will be, one or the other. We guarantee your answer right away.
Awesome.
All right,
well,
guys.
thank you guys.
Thanks, appreciate it.